Good morning, guys. What's happening? Here we go again. Ian's, technically, this is Hurricane Ian's fourth landfall. And we talked about that several days ago. Not necessarily a fourth. We talked about possible third landfall occurring right now, as you can see on the radar. It's essentially making landfall, even though officially the eye wall has not come in contact with the southeast coast yet. But it's very, very soon. They're already feeling the effects of the Category 1 hurricane. Got storm surge warnings along the coast of South Carolina. Another landfall. But three obvious landfalls: Cuba, United States twice, actually three times is what they consider some of these landfalls, because it made contact with a barrier island first, then went into the harbor and made landfall again. So pretty wild. Got some things I want to share with you guys regarding the landfall in Florida, the current landfall right here. Let me refresh this camera. I found a camera in South Carolina. Starting to see some rainfall. Getting windy. Yeah, I'm still here, guys. I'm just kind of getting my ducks in a row. Sometimes these live streams, you're trying to manage multiple windows and multiple pieces of information that I definitely want to share with you guys. We're along the South Carolina coast right here. You can see the wind starting to pick up a little bit, but it's not anywhere close to what we saw with the Florida landfall, and that's a good thing. But I'm going to show you how this thing weakened. Obviously, when it went across landfall through Central Florida, it weakened because of its interaction with land. But I'm going to show you something that occurred while it entered the Atlantic Ocean, and I saw it on the satellite presentation, and you don't normally, not able normally to see it in that capacity. But I'm going to share that with you guys here in just a moment. But anyway, we are along the coast of South Carolina right here. This camera here is looking at one of the intercoastal waterway. This is George Bishop Parkway. That's right along the coast of South Carolina. And this is where the hurricane is forecasted to make landfall. Looking at a map of possible flash flooding here in the next 24 hours. You can see a wide area of moderate potential covering most of South Carolina and most of North Carolina and about a half of Virginia. This is going to be a large-scale event. Once again, the rain is going to be the main component of this very powerful storm that's just loaded with moisture. There's going to be rain all up and down the East Coast, well inland into the mountains of Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia. A lot of rain. Yeah, there's still more to come. Lots and lots of rain. So, yeah, this thing is just getting started now along the East Coast. Had huge impacts in Florida. I've got some things I want to share with you guys from Florida, and we'll come back to these cameras here in a minute, and you can see the winds are picking up as the eye wall's getting closer and closer. Let's go back to the intercoastal waterway camera. Yeah, this one here, you're starting to see some movement. No water accumulating yet. I think they're expecting it's going to be a wide variety depending on, the outer bands. I think North Carolina is getting more rain right now than South Carolina. At least that's what it looks like to me on radar. But they're getting plenty of rain in South Carolina. But you don't see anything accumulating yet. These ditches right here are still fairly dry. You don't see any standing water yet. That'll surely change as we move forward throughout the morning and early afternoon. And it's going to rain for a long time. And I think, again, a considerable amount of rain is already occurring. In fact, I might take us up to North Carolina. In fact, we will. We're going to go right up in this area here. The eye wall's right here. This is the eye. It's coming in this direction, and it's going to keep going and then weaken to a tropical storm, tropical depression. But it's going to form. I'm going to show you what it's going to do, and we've seen these things before in the past. Let me show you what it's going to do. It's going to go up and form what I call that scorpion in the sky. It's going to come up, and it's going to make this big center of rotation right up in here. And the tail is going to kind of go up the eastern seaboard, and all of this is going to be rain for the next 2 or 3 days. Rain wrapped around the storm. That's the direction it's going to go. Right now I want to go over to North Carolina. We're going to catch a radar site right here. In fact, right here in the... Oh, wow. See what I mean? Yeah. They're getting a lot more rain over here in the North Carolina area. Look at that. Wow. And this is 100 miles away from the eye wall. So more rain coming down in North Carolina than in South Carolina. How about that? Oh, wow. It's just this has just been an unbelievable storm. It's going to be flooding up there in the North Carolina coastal areas. Let's see what we can come up with. Mans Harbor, Avon, Swan Quarter. These places are getting some very heavy rain. In fact, here's a report right there of storm surge. Report this morning, train spotter along Back Creek reported water levels 4 feet above normal or 3 feet above normally dry ground. And that is storm surge in this area right here by Beaufort, right along the coast of North Carolina. And let's see, Beaufort, Atlantic, right in there. They're already reporting storm surge of 4 feet in North Carolina. And this is all the way up from the eye wall. The eye wall's right here. You're getting storm surge up here. Wow. So Ian's far from over. It's going to be a long duration. It has been a long duration event, and it's still going. And it'll take rain all the way up the coast into New York. You'll get rain up in New York. You'll get rain up in, let's see, New Jersey. You'll see rain. Obviously Virginia. You'll see rain all up and down the East Coast. It'll swirl inland. Virginia, North Carolina. Guys are going to see a lot of rain from this. In fact, that's what the National Hurricane Center is forecasting anyway. Here's a look at this camera. Along the coast of South Carolina, starting to do a little bit of bouncing. I mean, this is very, very minimal compared to what we saw yesterday. See, it's starting to bounce a little bit. It's getting windier. I think they've got forecasts of up to 80, maybe 85 miles per hour. Here's right now the rain forecast. You can see it includes all of Virginia, all of West Virginia, all of North Carolina, 98% of South Carolina, except the far western parts of North and South Carolina, all but maybe the north part of New Jersey, parts of southern Pennsylvania, parts of southeastern Ohio. Just a humongous area. All of this area. In fact, I'll try to circle it if I can. Yeah, I can get it. Let's do it. All of this area from here out and go all the way up in Jersey. Kind of like that. Heavy rains. for the next 24 to 36 hours. Heavy rain's already starting. Looks like I said, they're getting more rain right now in those outer feeder bands than they are in actual South Carolina. South Carolina was reporting, I think, storm surge. Let's go back down here. You can see the eye wall. You can see the center of rotation. And the reason it didn't get any stronger than a Category 1, I want to show you guys why it didn't here in just a second. This is a flood being reported near Garden, South Carolina. Let's check it out. This is my first time looking at it here. Flooding reported in the streets of Garden City. Combination of surge and heavy rainfall. And Garden City is right here, be in northern, between Myrtle Beach, actually just south of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So getting a little more wind component down here in South Carolina. Look at the heavy rain difference up here in North Carolina opposed to South Carolina. Unbelievable. Wow. Seeing tropical storm force winds in Fayetteville. Let's read this report. I haven't read it yet. First time reading it. 41 mile an hour wind gust reported at Fayetteville Regional Airport. Here's another report. Let's see what this one says. It's just information. 39 mile an hour gust reported at Laurinburg Maxton Airport. Some more wind gusts down here. This is closer to the eye wall. Let's see. They might be a little stronger. Oh, here we go. Andrews, South Carolina. This was a report today, earlier this morning. Multiple trees down across Andrews, South Carolina. And that would be right here along the coast. Right in this area here. There's Andrews right there. Multiple trees down. And, you know, the ground being so saturated, that's what happened in Florida. And with the winds stopping now, the trees coming down should, you know, slow down considerably. But the ground gets so saturated and you have those high winds. And not only the ground saturated, the trees themselves become saturated. But what kept this storm from getting any stronger than a Category 1 was, number one, the obvious reason. It only had from basically here to re-strengthen, but it did. And I think it could have re-strengthened more if it hadn't have been for what's shaping the storm. You can see a big area over here that's wide open. What's this here? This is a report of something. Flood in the Columbia area? Let's check it out. That's 9/30/22. Reported roadway flooding on I-20. And that's near Columbia, South Carolina. So they're getting a lot of high winds and various things. Nothing compared to Florida, but nevertheless, it's making a fourth landfall. I'll explain why here in a minute. But I want to show you guys why it did not become a Category 2 storm. And the obvious was it wasn't over water as long. But here's the thing. This is the map from the National Hurricane Center. And you can see it's nearly making landfall. In fact, the eye wall is interacting with land right now. So here's why. Last night I noticed that the storm was, you could see the eye wall as it was exiting Florida and hopping back out into the ocean. But something else was being revealed too. The dry air being pulled in on the backside, the south side of Ian. And it was actually right in here. Right there's the eye wall. Okay, see it? Right there. And on the backside here, back in here, it was pulling in over here. All this dry air was intruding on the south side of the storm. This is the north side of the storm, east side of the storm, west side of the storm. And you can see there's really no south side of the storm. See how it's pulling in all of that dry air. See it? Right there, it's being pulled in. You can actually see bands of high speed, that's wind, pulling in all of this dry air, which is influencing the storm's strength. And in this case, it's creating less strength. It's keeping it at a Category 1. Otherwise, that storm very possibly could have been a Category 2. I wouldn't have doubted it was over water for nearly 24 hours, so it could have rapidly intensified again. It's done it before, but thankfully, and we can thank the dry air that's actually shaping this storm. That's what's giving it this defined side over here on the west, the left-hand side. It's this dry air, this big mass of dry air got pulled into the south side of the storm, and there is no south side of the storm because of that dry air. So we can thank the dry air that the storm is not any stronger than what it is right now. Even though it's a category 1 and starting to interact with the land. You can see the camera starting to bounce a little bit. This is US 501 north, and this is the intra-coastal waterway along the coast of South Carolina. And you can see the trees starting to blow a little bit in the background. I'm sure we'll start to see water accumulate here along the roadsides, and it's going to get a little windier. The storm has not officially made landfall, I don't think, just yet. But it is. It's starting to make landfall, and this will be according to official reports. We look at it like, okay, it made landfall in, I'm trying to get this to update. This is hailreports.com, and usually it has wind reports and does have a tornado near Melbourne from a couple days ago on the 28th, associated with the landfall of Hurricane Ian in Florida. But there's so much data that it can't even upload it all because it's just overwhelmed with wind reports from the hurricane landfall. But I want to show you guys the river gauges too. But excuse me, the reason it's classified as a fourth landfall, we talked about that possibility. It made landfall down here in western Cuba, obviously came up and made landfall in southwestern Florida, but they consider this a double landfall because it made landfall right here, and I believe this is the official location because it's sticking out the farthest, here at Cayo Costa. It made landfall here, the eye wall did, but the right-hand side, it's just unbelievable what happened down here. But anyway, this was considered the first landfall right here along this barrier island. And then it made landfall over here along the coast. I don't know if they consider Boquilla. Maybe it went over to Punta Gorda like Hurricane Charlie did. To be honest, it made landfall almost exactly, not perfectly exactly, but almost exactly where Hurricane Charlie did back in 2004. And Hurricane Charlie did go back out into the Atlantic Ocean. It didn't really reform into anything significant, like this one's actually turning back into a category 1. But that's what they consider 2 landfalls. The landfall with the barrier island, that would be the second landfall after Cuba. So Cuba, western Cuba first, barrier island down here at Cayo Costa second, and then somewhere along here in the intercoastal waterway, I don't know if it was Charlotte Park, if maybe it was Boquilla, somewhere along in the Charlotte Harbor area, which, by the way, the entire power grid here in Port Charlotte, from what I understand, is going to have to be rebuilt. And I'll show you how I found that out right here. A comment from Christy. She said that she posted this just a little while ago. And thank you, Christy. I appreciate you passing this on. She said, I lived through Hurricane Charlie, thought it was bad, and it was, but not the duration and amount of devastation as this Hurricane Ian she's talking about. Her daughter, grandkids, and great-grandkids still living in Port Charlotte. She said on radio yesterday that Charlotte County power grid has to be rebuilt. And she says her hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to everyone impacted, and so do mine. I'm really pulling for you guys. I hope everybody got out. I know everybody didn't. And we talked about that during the live stream. Nobody wants to evacuate. We talked about that the other day, and there's a wide variety of reasons why some people can't. And I understand that and respect that, I sure do. I get it. I've been involved in evacuation processes with hurricanes, so it's no fun. But anyway, this area here, the entire power grid is going to have to be rebuilt. So that's going to tell you that the power is going to be off for a while. There's another comment about 3 hours ago from Jun, Jun, It was the scariest hurricane I experienced in my 52 years. I'm still in shock and not sure where to start with cleanup. Nature is humbling. I never felt so insignificant in my life. And this was a storm like no other. I know I'd mentioned that this could have been, the largest to ever make landfall in Florida. And I think it ranks up there with the top four. It may not necessarily have been the largest, but it was one of the largest. And you can see over here, this is a live satellite view of Hurricane Ian. It's starting to speed up a little bit. It was moving at 9 miles an hour. I think it's probably a little faster than that, as you can clearly see. And that's because the winds up here, the wind shear, are starting to grab a hold of this outer channel here and pull it forward. It's going to pull it forward more towards the north. And that means the forward speed is going to increase, so it's making landfall right now along the coast of South Carolina. But as you can see, there's no south side of the storm. And again, that's thanks to this dry air intrusion. It just dried it up. So these storms don't like dry air, they don't like wind shear, and they prefer warm waters. And right now, it's going to lose the warm waters, and it's interacting with wind shear, so it's going to weaken down to a tropical storm here soon within the next few hours. But the rain component is going to be around for a while, as you can see, and this rain is going to go up into Virginia. It's going to consume most of North Carolina to some degree. It's going to go up to Baltimore, obviously New Jersey, Pennsylvania, up into New York, the upper northeast, into New England, West Virginia. I mean, just amazing. I got a report where Savannah, a person reported from Savannah, Georgia, that the rain there so far has been very light. And thank you for that report. Appreciate it. And that's primarily because the path of the storm is kind of steered out away from, and it took a more northerly track up into here. At one point, there was speculation that it could go into this area here, which would have put it closer to Savannah. But as it turned out, it went farther to the north and is, as you can clearly see, making landfall near Georgetown, in between Charleston, South Carolina, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So concerns here are obviously storm surge, rain accumulation on top of the storm surge. Not so much the wind. I mean, honestly, this storm, it had moments of 140, but nobody knows exactly how strong the wind was because you don't have wind monitors covering every square foot of land, and this storm was several hundred miles wide. So, there could have very well been wind gusts of 150 miles an hour or greater, but they just weren't measured, Just like they're still trying to figure out the exact rainfall totals, and nobody may ever know because we don't have rain gauges covering every square foot of land that this storm covered. The storm is just entirely too big. We're getting reports now of 19 inches in places and upwards of 30 in some places, but the true scope and magnitude of this storm may never be known. It may never fully be known. It's that big, and it's not done yet. Looking at, but it wasn't necessarily the strongest by category. Category 5. Irma was a Category 5 for a while. Hurricane Michael made landfall as a Category 5, but this storm here, looking at some of the things I've seen so far from the Naples area, Fort Myers Beach area, looks like to me it could have had some hurricane Category 5 DNA in it, at least in parts of it. I've never, since Hurricane Michael, but this storm here caused more flooding than Hurricane Michael. Hurricane Michael was a big time wind event. This storm here had the wind close to the core, but the tropical storm force winds extended out for hundreds of miles. But it was the flooding, and that's something else I wanted to show you guys since we're here. Look at the flooding. If you can see the graph in the upper right-hand corner, this is Peace River at Zolfo. We talked about this yesterday at Zolfo Springs. ended up setting a new record. The pink is major flood stage, and it eclipsed the old record by over 2 feet. I'm going to show you all these. All of these purple dots you see across the center of the state of Florida are rivers that are in major flood stage, okay? And we're just going to click on them. This is the Myakka River, and it too looks like it quite possibly set a new record. So that's 2 new records. The major flood stage level is 10 feet, and this went up over 12.7. And the old record was 12.5. Here's another one. Horse Creek near Arcadia. Absolutely crushed the old record. The new record looks like it's 21.24 feet. The old record was 18 feet. And major flood stage is 16 feet. So right here, right where my cursor's at there, Horse Creek near Arcadia was over 5 feet above major flood stage. Over 5 feet. Okay, we just saw that one. And then there's the Peace. Here's the Peace River at Arcadia. Wow, this is even more. Are you serious? Look at the blue line going up into the pink. Major flood stage starts at 16 feet. That's a huge deal if the water ever gets that high. This went clear up to 23.6, actually 24 feet is where it's expected to go today. That would be 8 feet above major flood stage. And the record, 20.5. So it's going to break the old record by 4 feet. I mean, that's the thing with this storm. Just record-setting flood. This one did not set a record. This is Little Manatee River near Wimauma. Looks like it did make major flood stage. Eclipsed major flood stage to 17.56. This is the Peace River south of Lakeland. Made it up to flood stage, but did not set a new record. It made it up to major. Went up to 10.14. Major flood stage is 10. This one set a new record. Shingle Creek at Campbell, Florida. Major flood stage, wow, it's 62 feet. This one here went up to 63.7. And the old record was 62.3. So that record was eclipsed by 1 foot. Little Wakiva River near Altamont Springs, another new record. Major flood stage is 29 feet. This one made it all the way up to 31 feet, 2 feet above major. And the old record was 29.7. Just record after record after record. Here's another new record. Major flood stage, 10 feet. Looks like the new record's going to be 11.6. I think the old record was 11. I'm just moving up the path of the storm. You can see we're following the path of the storm, and that's where all of these rivers are at major flood stage. St. John's River at Astor. Did you know the St. John's River runs north? It's one of the few rivers on Earth that runs to the north. Major flood stage, 4 feet. It's going to make it to 4.6 by this afternoon. And that is going to tie the old record at 4.6. Wow, here's another one here. Haw Creek above Russell Landing. Major flood stage is 6 feet. And looks like to me this set a new record going just over 7 feet. This is like up in the North Orlando, far North Orlando area near Sanford, Florida. This is the Ocklawaha River at Rodman Dam. Eclipsed major flood stage, which is 7 feet. This went up to 8.67 feet, but did not set a new record there. This one here, St. John's River at Buffalo Bluff, set a new record. The old record was 3.2. This went to 3.36, major being 3 feet. Dunn's Creek Looks like another new record. Major at 3. This went to 3.72, and the old record was 3.7. Deep Creek at Spuds made it to major, which is 4.2. Didn't quite eclipse the old record of 5.8, but did make it to nearly 5.2. All of these that you see here, all of these purples are major. And you know what? It's a big deal to see one of these in purple. And there's over 15. And you can see the same situation up here in South Carolina by the end of the day, especially in North Carolina, and we'll be keeping an eye on that. We could see the same thing start to occur up here, especially, like I said, in North Carolina. According to this radar, that rain is coming down at an incredible rate. You know, you're looking at, just according to the radar, you're probably seeing rainfall rates of at least 2 inches per hour, at least. I mean, this is a tropical storm. Tropical storms do that. That's how they are built. They are built to bring in the rain. That's what they do. So 2 inches an hour is nothing for a tropical storm, especially a hurricane. So, yeah, they're going to see creeks, rivers, tributaries, estuaries, all of that's going to rise. They're probably experiencing some storm surge here. They're very prone to storm surge. They have the barrier islands here as well, like down in Florida. You know, Sanibel Island, which was totally exposed to the right-hand side of this storm. This entire barrier island took on the brunt of the very powerful long duration. That was the thing I kept noticing too about this storm. I kept thinking, you know, because we were on a camera right here. We were right here on a camera yesterday for 4 hours, right in here. And I kept thinking, okay, with the eye wall, we're going to be in the eye wall. In fact, I was kind of looking forward to seeing the eye, you know, and looking up. I've been in it before at night, but not during the day. And it never did come. Sat here for hours and hours and hours. I think I was on for 4 hours. People said it lasted for 5 hours. They'd never seen one last that long. Because it did slow down some as it made landfall. The land did not really affect its strength that much. But these barrier islands literally took the brunt of the strongest part of the storm. And there are many homes here in the Sanibel Island area. Many, many homes. And in fact, from what I saw, I've been seeing reports that this bridge, the Causeway Islands Park, and the bridge that connects Sanibel Island to the mainland right here is out. This bridge collapsed, and it wasn't from the wind, it was from the water. It was the water with this event, and it will be remembered for its tremendous water push inland. And the water disrupted the sand on this barrier island, and it caused the bridge to collapse. Right out here, the bridge did good. You know, the pillars did good. They held the bridge firm. It was the sand that gave away here, and this part collapsed. So that's going to be a while getting that rebuilt. So this is like, I mean, your only way to get back and forth. And there's hundreds of people that live out here, if not thousands. Wow. I mean, it's a beautiful place, but boy, if there's ever a hurricane, see, there's no bridge over here. And I think part of this flooded and part of it didn't. I don't know the exact details. It's going to be a while before all of the exact details are known. I did find out, you know, from a viewer that has family that lives here in Port Charlotte, Charlotte County, and they emphasize that Charlotte County power grid has to be rebuilt. And more than likely, that was because of the storm surge and water. You got to keep in mind, water is very heavy. Water weight can do a lot of damage. Obviously, wind can too, but you can escape the wind. You can go inside an interior room. If you have a basement, that's even better yet. If you don't have a basement, you find the interior room of your home, and you know, preferably no glass, and you hunker down. You can escape the wind. You cannot escape floodwaters, especially rising storm surge that has a strong kinetic energy component. It's going to start moving foundations. I saw a house this morning where the foundation had been totally disrupted from the heavy storm surge. It wasn't the wind, it was the storm surge, because the roof was still on the house. But the foundation had been completely disconfigured, and there was a palm tree inside the house. Just unbelievable. We're looking at an intra-coastal waterway camera on the coast of South Carolina, where the storm is currently, I don't know if it's officially made landfall yet, but you can see the eye wall right here. Again, like I showed you guys earlier, it's pulling in dry air, and that's what's keeping this storm tamed down. This big flow of dry air entering. You can see right where it's entering too. I took this screen grab earlier, I think I took it last night, as the inflow. You can see the inflow currents going into the counterclockwise rotation of the giant storm. And that's what's keeping this giant storm tame right now, is this big body of dry air, this high pressure system over here. So we can thank that big high pressure system, that dry air infiltrating the storm, keeping it to a minimal category 1, and we don't see the camera bouncing here in South Carolina. And right here's where it's making a landfall. Here's where the camera's at. Camera's right here. This is where the camera's at that we are watching. It's right here. So we're kind of in a gap. You see that green part? It's pretty quiet. So this camera will probably start getting a little more active here in about 10 or 15 minutes because it's in between what look like a couple of the strong outer bands or the inner bands that are getting closer to the core of the storm. So this one here will start to probably start bouncing around here a little bit in the next 10 or 15 minutes. Again, this is along the coast of South Carolina, but if you look at the radar, it shows North Carolina getting the bulk right now of the rain, and that's moving up into Virginia. So Virginia, parts of southern Delaware, that's going to be later on this afternoon. It's going up the Potomac, it looks like, going into eastern Virginia right now with moderate to heavy rain, but very heavy rain along the east coast of North Carolina. You can see that counterclockwise rotation right down here along the coast of Myrtle Beach, Georgetown, Sunset Beach, including parts of Wilmington, Carolina Beach, Oak Island, right in the middle of a strong outer band right there. But here's the eye wall. Still going. Wow. Big storm. Aesthetically very big storm. For sure. See if we got any new reports here. This is south of Georgetown, just reporting the tropical storm winds. And the reports, they update on here automatically. I don't see any tornado reports, at least yet. I'm sure that's subject to change as we move forward in time. You know, these things are constantly evolving. This is a small marine craft warning, I think. Special marine warning. This is along the coast of North Carolina. Let's see what they got to say. A band of thunderstorms capable of producing water spouts was located 7 nautical miles southeast of AR 255, or 10 nautical miles east of Drum Inlet, moving northwest at 30 knots. Water spouts and wind gusts to nearly 50 knots. So potential water spouts here along the coast of North Carolina. Not surprised by looking at the radar. Flash flood warning along the coast of North Carolina. That includes Morehead City. Looks like it includes Newport, Havelock. In fact, let's read the report and we'll see exactly who it includes. This was just posted. Flash flood warning from the National Weather Service out of Newport, Morehead City, North Carolina, September 30th, 11:25 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Flash flood warning for Carteret County in eastern North Carolina, southeastern Craven County in eastern North Carolina. At 11:25 Eastern Time, Doppler radar indicated thunderstorms producing heavy rain across the warned area. Between 4 and 6 inches of rain have already fallen. Are you serious? The expected rainfall rate is 1.5 to 2 inches in 1 hour. Those are pretty good rates. That's classic tropical storm hurricane rates. Additional rainfall amounts of 2 to 3 inches are possible. So if we take 2 to 3 inches and add it to the 4 to 6, that's going to make it 6 to 9 inches of rain here in a very short period of time. So yes, indeed, that will create flash flooding. So those are some strong rainfall rates. I'm glad they posted that. That's good to know. So this rain's coming down at anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5 inches per hour. Wow, that's strong. That's stronger than they're getting down here in South Carolina. Even though they're getting the wind component down here in South Carolina, it looks like the rain component is along the coast of North Carolina. And of course, that's moving inland. Looks like it's moving west-northwest. It's going to be around for a while. This storm's going to go up, and we see these often. This thing's going to go up and then anchor and then spin. And then all these outer bands will come up and bring rain all this direction. That'd be in the next 2 days. It's going to be around for a little bit. It's a big, strong storm, and it's going to take a while for it to decompress. Basically, what's going to happen, and it will still continue to drop copious amounts of rain throughout the eastern United States for the next couple of days, because this was such a big, strong storm. It's not going to, like I said, decompress in just a couple hours. It's going to take a few days. Easy. A lot of rain. So we're looking at the eye wall. I think it's made landfall. Looks like to me it has. What do you guys think? Look like it's touching land, and that would officially be the fourth landfall. 3 if you count the U.S. just twice, but you know, if you factor in the barrier island, which is technically a landfall of its own. Larkstar, looking at a comment here, Larkstar 444. Can I put Seabrook Island, South Carolina on the screen? I'll sure try. Seabrook, South Carolina. See if I can. I don't know where Seabrook is at. Let's do this. I gotta find Seabrook because I don't know where Seabrook's at, but I will. Oh, Seabrook Island, South Carolina. Basically, we're taking the path of Hurricane Ian. Oh, okay. Seabrook, that is gotcha. I know where it's at now. Right there. So Seabrook, you're right here. You are just on the, let me see if my radar can go down here and pick up something a little closer to Seabrook. Here we go. Oh wow, there you go, buddy. How about that? Kind of just There's the eye wall. Yeah, it's definitely making interaction with the land. Totally is. Okay, and here's Seabrook. There you go. So Seabrook, you are in it to win it. Look at that. Larkstar 444. Pitt County, please. Glitched. I'll look up Pitt County here in just a moment. Seabrook Island right there. You are in some very heavy rain. In fact, you're under a warning. Let's read it. Charleston, you are in a very thick rain band, probably getting 2-3 inch per hour per rate. Let's look up Seabrook Island, see what you guys are looking at. Here you go. Seabrook, flash flood warning expires in 2 hours and 1 minute. So this is going to go on for a while. And here we go. This is from the National Weather Service, not me. I'm just relaying the message. National Weather Service out of Charleston, South Carolina. This was issued at 10:35 Eastern Time today. Flash flood warning for Charleston County in southeastern South Carolina. Colleton County in southeastern South Carolina until 2 p.m. At 10:27 a.m., Doppler radar indicated bands of heavy rain associated with Hurricane Ian will push across the southern Charleston County from late morning through early afternoon. Between 2 and 3 inches of rain has fallen this morning. The expected rainfall rate is 1 to 2 inches per hour, which I believe that's probably conservative by the looks of this radar, probably more than that. May continue through midday. Additional rainfall amounts of 3 to 5 inches are possible across the warned area, especially near Johns Island, Ravenel, and Wadmalaw. I think I got that right. Wadmalaw Island. Flash flooding is ongoing and expected to begin shortly. I'm sure it has. There's Folly Beach getting a lot of heavy rain right now. Rockville, Hollywood. There's Ravenel. But this band, that is just strong. Wow. Let's read the situation update here and this one expires in 4 hours. And this is in the Charleston area near Sullivan's Island, Isle of Palms, Carolina Bay. Here we go. Again, this is real-time updated information from the National Weather Service. Don't see any tornadoes on here, which is good. You can see lightning offshore, though. This still has a lot of horsepower. Okay, National Weather Service out of Charleston, South Carolina. This one came out at 11:51 a.m. A flash flood warning for Berkeley County in southeastern South Carolina, Charleston County in southeastern South Carolina. 11:42 a.m. Eastern Time, Charleston police reported that the cross town was closed due to flooding. In addition, numerous streets across downtown Charleston were closed due to floodwaters. This flooding was a result of 3 to 5 inches of rainfall that has fallen so far today. A band of heavy rainfall may continue to produce torrential rainfall rates over Charleston and the surrounding areas well into this afternoon. This band may produce an additional 2 to 3 inches. Oh my goodness, 2 to 3 inches of rain. More like, okay, I'm going to just go with that. You guys know the deal by looking at the radar. You think that's going to produce just 2 to 3 inches of rain? It's raining at nearly 2 inches of rain per hour, and this is going to go on for hours. Little to no stormwater drainage will occur until tide waters. Oh yeah, because it's high tide right now. That's right, until tide waters fall later this afternoon, likely producing flash flooding across the city of Charleston. In addition, water levels on Church Creek near West Ashley continue to steadily rise. At this pace, the creek would exceed flood stage later this afternoon. Life-threatening flash flooding, rain bands with Hurricane Ian. It was a good report right there, but with these rainfall rates, you know, at 2 inches per hour, if this does this for another 3 hours, that's going to be an additional 6 inches of rain on top of I think it's high tide right now. There's high tide in this area, so pretty big deal. Pretty big deal going on here, guys. Wow. There's the eye. Definitely making contact with the land. I wanted to look up. I have a friend that's right here along the coast. In fact, they're right by the eye wall. In fact, they're probably in the eye wall. Yeah, right in the middle of the eye, just off the coast. It's difficult to tell because the radar is so inundated. Wow. Now you see it here, guys. It has arrived. Let's read some of these. Heavy rain. Here's a report that was submitted earlier. Law enforcement reports that Crosstown is closed. The Septima Clark Parkway is closed due to the flooding. Here's another report. The Dorchester Manor neighborhood has standing water and is impassable. Wow. Okay, there's the landfall. It's doing the same thing without the eye wall rotation up here in North Carolina. It's just the storm is so big you can't get it all in one radar sweep. And normally you can. Absolutely. This isn't the first time I've used this to follow hurricanes. And normally the hurricane fits in one radar sweep. It goes all the way out to here. This one's so big it will not. And you know what? It never has. It's still very, very big. Just incredible. No kidding. Myrtle Beach. Oh, here we go. That is tropical storm. This is another report. Yeah, I have friends here in Murrells Inlet, South Carolina. Tree down on power line in Murrells Inlet. You guys be safe down there, right along this area here. They're right in the middle of the eye of the storm, or just on the right-hand side. That's the traditionally the strongest part of the storm, so they're getting high winds. In fact, they are in a flash flood warning for the next hour and 25 minutes, and that would include Murrells Inlet. Let's read it and see. This comes from the National Weather Service. This is all updated on here automatically. National Weather Service out of Wilmington, North Carolina. Flash flood warning for southeastern Georgetown County in northeastern South Carolina until 1:30 Eastern time. So we got another hour and a half to go, basically. At 10:21 Eastern time, emergency management reported heavy rain across the warned area. Between 2 and 4 inches of rain have fallen. Additional rainfall amounts of 2 to 3 inches are possible in the warned area. Flash flooding is ongoing or expected to begin shortly. And I think that high tide is currently underway in this area as well. So take the onshore momentum from the eye of the storm, compound it with high tide, and compound it with 1 to 2 inch per hour rainfall rates, and you've got a big flood situation going on here. Quite big, not as big as Florida, what they saw. I don't know that that's ever been seen, but this is a very big flood situation here in South Carolina. And there'll be flooding in North Carolina. In fact, there's flooding in North Carolina right now as it's making landfall in South Carolina. It's just amazing. So I hope I answered your questions. You guys down here are going to be in these rain bands. If you're near Charleston, there's going to be a lot of flooding. It's going to rain there for a while, guys. The storm, here's a bit of good news. The storm is gaining speed. Here in a little bit, it will be moving near 17 miles an hour to the north, slightly northwest. So it's going to pick up speed as it gets closer and closer to that high-speed wind shear that's shaping the side and the dry air that it infiltrated the south side. When it gets up into here, then it's going to start pulling the storm to the north. Okay, but it's still going to be a couple hours before it does that, but it's already influencing the storm. But I don't know if it's official, but it looks like to me it's interacting with the land. So that would be technically its fourth landfall. Technically, had a landfall western Cuba, 2 along the Fort Myers, Naples area, right down in here, made contact with the barrier island, and then went into the Fort Myers area, Naples area. So that was considered technically 2 landfalls. And now we're looking at 1, 2, that would be 3, counting those 2. And then we're looking at a 4th landfall in this area here. And you know that these intercoastals, these little tributaries, there's estuaries all over the place. These are rising. It's high tide right now. So high tide compounded with heavy rain and flash flooding. There's a situation going on here. I don't know what the power outage situation is, but we're going to look real quick. You guys want to look? Let's look. Poweroutage.us. There you go. Red is max. That's what's going on in Florida. 1.8 million customers. Bit of good news. They are getting customers back online in Florida. That's great. But people are going offline in South Carolina. In South Carolina, there's 53,800 customers without electricity in South Carolina. North Carolina, just north of 14,000. Those are customers. So you know that each independent residence has at least 2 or 3 people in it. So you can take that number times at probably 3 very conservatively. If there's 3 people per household, that's per customer. So, just like in Florida, nearly 2 million, that's customers. Well, if there's at least 3 customers per household, then, you're looking at 6 million potential people that are being affected by the loss of power. So this is a camera along the coast of South Carolina where the storm looks like it's making landfall. Getting tremendous rainfall right now in the Charleston area. Looks like they might be in for a little bit of a break. See that area right there? That's in between the core, because the core is starting to collapse a little bit. And then that's going to create a lull. But it's still very strong over here, and it's coming down from the northwest. So it's going to let up just a little bit. But places like Seabrook Island, Edisto Beach, Folly Beach, Hollywood, you guys are going to be in the rain for quite some time. Probably the next hour and a half, solid, very heavy rain. So expect another inch to 3, 4, maybe 5 inches of rain on top of what you already have. And then it's going to linger throughout the rest of the afternoon before it does gain speed and take off, and then it will clear out. It will clear out. It's going to get much quicker. But we'll check the rivers up here. Like you see down here in Florida, these rivers are running above maximum capacity, the ones that are in purple. The ones that are in red are moderate flooding. It's the ones that are purple that are very problematic and creating flooding in that's the thing. I don't think I've ever seen that all the way across the diagonally across the state of Florida from southwest to northeast. Multiple rivers in a major flood stage. It's a big deal to see one in major flood stage, let alone that many. Okay, so you can see the rain starting to get harder. The camera's starting to bounce a little. I mean, this is absolutely minor compared to what we saw in southwest Florida on the I-75 North. This is the 501 North, US 501 North at the intra-coastal along the south coast, or along the southeast coast of South Carolina. So you can see the skies getting darker as the clouds are getting thicker. That means we're closer to the eye wall. And the rain's coming down obviously heavier. More than likely it's going to start to accumulate here. And the roadside, those are pretty good size ditches. But this area, all in all, I looked yesterday at parts of, where was it at, Merrill? Where are we at? This is very busy. But some places I looked were, 6 feet above sea level. And they're in this place right here, in fact. In fact, we're People I know right here in Merrill's Inlet, it's 6 feet above sea level. 6 feet. And there were places down in, I did some research before the storm hit, down in the Naples, Port Charlotte area, some areas were 9 feet above sea level. And those areas received storm surge, in some areas of over 9 feet. I don't know what they're getting here. It's an ongoing situation here, but I do know that Merrill's Inlet's 6 feet above sea level. And then, of course, the places right on the beach are at sea level. So, making landfall near Charleston. Don't know the exact location, but it's definitely in South Carolina. I want to show you guys the North Carolina scene. Big situation going on here in South Carolina. Very heavy rain, flash flooding. Power outages, 53,000 customers without power. In fact, that's one thing I wanted to look. Let's go back real quick, guys. I'm sorry. I want to see what it's got to be along the coast. Yeah, definitely. Along the coast, that probably includes Merrill's Inlet right there. You have 3,753 right here without electricity. See how it's all along the coast? And that lines up perfectly with the landfall of the storm. Lines up perfectly. It's over here at poweroutage.us. I'm going to go up to North Carolina too, but power outages, and again, this could be another long duration event because the linemen cannot get in there and work if the winds are above, I think, 35 or 40 miles per hour. For safety reasons, obviously, you don't want to put them in a bad situation, so the winds have to calm down, and of course the rain, they can't drive their trucks in floods. So 1,872 in Columbus County, and this would be in southern North Carolina. So sporadic, you can see all these counties that have like light colors. Those are power outages in North Carolina. And then in South Carolina, it's primarily along the far southeastern half, multiple counties, widespread power outages in South Carolina. Let me refresh this. There were 53,000, still 53,800, and still 1.8 million in Florida. And that's going to be a long duration power outage in Florida for some areas. When Hurricane Charlie went through back in 2004, some of my friends didn't have power for 4 straight weeks. 4 weeks, which compared to Puerto Rico, didn't have power for a year in some locations. I suppose that's not, looks like the power's out here. Looks like the power may be out here. The camera's still working, but I don't see any lights on anywhere else other than on vehicles. And this is the US 501 at the Intracoastal. So we may have power outages in this area, so I don't know how long the camera's going to stay on, unless there's just no lights on over there. I don't know. You can see the wind picking up, the rain's getting thicker, not near whiteout conditions like we saw yesterday. And in the Port Charlotte area is actually where we were. I knew the eye wall was going to be in that area, and it was for 5 hours. So it's no wonder that the grid needs to be rebuilt. I want to thank Christy for that information. Thank you, Christy, and I hope your family's okay. I really do. I was pulling for everybody. I was hoping everybody could get out, but you know what? I know that's not realistic. Not everybody can leave for a variety of reasons, and I totally understand. You can't just pack up and leave in a matter of less than 24 hours notice. It's difficult to do on a week's notice, let alone 24 hours. So I understand. I hope everybody made it okay, though. I really, truly do. Not sure where these folks are going. It is 12:16 in South Carolina. I suppose it's lunchtime. I guess people are out for lunch. Are they evacuating? I have no idea. See the trees starting to whip around over here a little bit. Look at the radar. This is this area right here, right where the storm's making landfall. Right there. It has arrived. So that's its 4th official landfall. 4. I can't think of any just off. I'm sure it's probably happened. I just can't think of any off the top of my head that have made 4 landfalls. just one after another consecutive. I can't think of one. Anybody know of any that have? Try to answer a couple questions here. This is from Ginger. Can you please explain what happens with a vortex forms inside the eye of a hurricane? A hurricane is a vortex. It's a large, cumbersome vortex that you can't necessarily see because it's so big. You can see it on radar. It's not like a water spout or a land spout or a tornado. And these types of vortexes are different than tornadoes. Hurricanes, the laws of physics tell us that the hurricanes, you can tell by what happened with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, in fact, down here, even though it's high tide, the offshore flow of the storm rotating counterclockwise, that's the vortex. Hurricanes they push down, they're pushing water in right now in parts of Myrtle Beach and Litchfield Beach. But down here in Charleston, believe it or not, even though there's flash flooding in areas, along the coast, there could be some water moving out. As odd as that may seem, because of the offshore flow. Hurricanes push, tornadoes pull. That's why tornadoes become dark, is because they pull debris off the ground, and they pull dirt particulates off the ground, and they start to swirl around the body of the tornado, making it visible. It starts out as just clean air, a clean air vortex, until it touches the ground, and then it starts pulling dirt up into the vortex, and it creates what you see, a tornado you can take a picture of, and you know where it's at. These are just too big to even see. Like the eye wall of this thing, I think it was 30 miles wide. I mean, I think that was bigger than the entire Hurricane Charlie storm. Jennifer, please check Horry County. Okay, Myrtle Beach is your home. You can't reach anyone. Okay, Jennifer, I'm on it. Let's go to Myrtle Beach. Here we go. I'm zooming in. Here's Myrtle Beach. Comparatively speaking to some folks, say, over in Charleston, just a little bit, few miles down the beach in Litchfield Beach, they're getting some heavy winds right now. The winds are strong here. Let me tell you what's going on with regard to this green, big, long rectangle you see there. The area of Myrtle Beach is under a flash flood warning until 3:15 p.m. For basically another 3 hours. So what you're experiencing here, your family is experiencing power outages. They're experiencing not as heavy now as they were, but they were dealing with flash flooding, and probably will for the next 3 hours, and that's according to the National Weather Service. So we can look real quick. Myrtle Beach, and you told me what county. Let's go look. They are in Horry County. We'll see if they have power. Here we go. Myrtle Beach. Here's a camera along the beach. We're going to go to South Carolina. We're going to go to Horry County. Okay, there's Charleston County. Here's Horry County. Right now, Horry County only has, believe it or not, unless this hasn't been updated, 149. No, I take that back. They have Horry Electric 4,400, 2,300. Oh, wow. They have 6,700 customers, nearly 6,800. Yeah, 6,914 customers without electricity. So that's what's going on. According to this, based off the information that I've been able to retrieve, and this is real time, they have no power. They have no power right now, so they're dealing with heavy rain. Looks like it's going to let up, though. That's a good thing. It's going to let up for a minute. They'll get a little break. The heaviest part's obviously over here, but the eye wall is still bringing in big time winds. 80-mile-an-hour gusts, but not sustained. Those are gusts. Let's see, this will probably tell us some possible wind speeds. Tree down on power line, Merle's Inlet. So that's creating power outages in this area. Trees down, the branches, get so heavy. They're saturated with water. And then, of course, the high winds. The trees haven't been trimmed in a while. Then they can fall onto power lines and create power outages. the locations that fared the best, like even during Hurricane Ian, that had underground power service, fared pretty good, but the above ground ones just don't stand a chance in a major hurricane. The power lines are more than likely going to come down, sometimes the entire pole. But at minimum, the power line, it's going to come down. So that's what's going on in Myrtle Beach. I would say that they're dealing with no power at the moment. And more than likely, with these high winds, it's going to be out for a while because they can't get to the area safely to get the power back on. So they could be without power for many hours. Don't want to say days because I don't know that. I don't know the situation. I do know that there's a new update right there. See that updated in real time? That red shape. It's not necessarily a rectangle. It's not a square. It's tornado warning. That's our first one that I've seen on here involving the landfall of Hurricane Ian. Tornado warning expires in 36 minutes. That's near Oak Island, and this was just issued 10 seconds ago by the National Weather Service. Tornado warning for southwestern Brunswick County in southeastern North Carolina. And usually this is radar indicated, not necessarily spotted by someone on the ground, but this is until 1 p.m. Eastern Time. A severe, I'm sorry, let's scrolled out of it for some reason. Here we go. Okay, at 12:21 p.m., a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located 8 miles southeast of Holden Beach, moving northeast, get a load of this, at 55 miles per hour, flying debris and the whole 9 yards. So this area here is under a tornado warning for about the next 22 minutes. That doesn't necessarily mean one's been seen. That means the radar has indicated conditions are very favorable in this location. Doesn't necessarily mean one's happened yet, and doesn't necessarily guarantee that one's going to. What a huge storm. And all of these rivers, and like I mentioned earlier, where's Google Earth? Right here. All of these are filling up with water right now as I do this video. They have to, especially Charleston. There's an outflow component here, maybe pushing water out, fighting against the high tide. But up in through here, the ground's going to be very saturated. Merle's in this area here, high tide's pushing in, and it's coming in with the eye wall of the hurricane. So you have the kinetic energy from the storm pushing in water, like they all do, with high tide and heavy rain. So I would say that Merle's Inlet, this area here, this marsh inlet walk, inlet marsh walk, the murals, all of this area, okay, the water has to go somewhere, so it typically goes up. This is the natural lay of the land and the water. When it has excessive amounts, more than it normally holds, it goes up. So I would say that these areas here are probably experiencing some degree, I don't know how much, I'm not there, and I don't want to speculate too much, but just based off of what we see here, that is water already on a normal day, and we are definitely not having a normal day right now. So these are not normal conditions, so they're taking on extra water. So there's just common sense will tell you that there's going to be significant flooding, flash flooding in those areas, because they normally are loaded with water on a normal dry day. And this is an exceptionally wet, windy day that's pushing water in and bringing water in from the sky. That's going to create flooding anywhere, especially an intercoastal area, a marsh, an estuary. it's going to become overwhelmed with water, at least temporarily. And thankfully, this is just a Category 1. I know if you're in that area, you know, you're dealing with power outages and heavy rain. Don't know the winds. I don't have any idea what the wind speeds are. Category 1s are typically, you know, 75 mile an hour winds, maybe 80. But, you know, I'm sure those are gusts. You know, the winds sustains are probably sustained speeds 40, 50 miles per hour. That's pretty average with a tropical storm, but this has not been an average tropical storm or a hurricane, not by a mile. This has been a true overachiever. It really has. And I don't like to see people's homes in disarray and their communities in disarray. That's you know what communities have built, you know, and to see it disrupted, you know, that's their stuff. That's their home. You want to see their homes thrive, and you want to see people do good. But unfortunately, we live in a world that you know, hurricanes are just part of who we are and our experiences as humans on planet Earth. They've always been here, and they always will be. And it just seems like here, especially since 2017, if you guys have noticed, there have been some really, really big storms since 2017. Michael, Laura, Irma, now Ian, Harvey, you know, there's others, you know, that Ida, and you can go back to 2005 and include Katrina, but just since 2017, there's been more, I think, in 5 years than, you know, big landfalls than there have in probably decades. There's definitely a change underway. That's for sure. No doubt about it. The climate is definitely more intense overall. Our experience with regard to our climate, you know, is definitely more energized. It's more intense. So we have to adapt to that. We have to adapt to that. So we have to build, you know, cognitively with those types of thoughts in mind. You know, okay, could we take on a Category 4? What if this were a Category 4 amongst all of these, you know, waterways and you know, estuaries and things like that? See, this camera froze up. Yeah, Category 4 in this area here would overwhelm with floodwaters, you know, very, very quickly. This is 6 feet above sea level right back here. This is obviously sea level. It's just on the sea. But back here, it's 6 feet above sea level. There's very little protection against a storm of any kind. Gonna refresh the camera here, guys. Just a little different view along the coast of South Carolina. Beautiful South Carolina. Cool place. Gardner Lacey Road. Looks like no. Thought maybe the power lights might have been out, but it doesn't. Or, I'm sorry, the street lights, but they're not. They're still on. Just looking at different cameras here. That one does not work. I'm not surprised. Waccamaw River does not work. US 701 does not work. Yeah, some of these cameras are going offline. Understandably so. They're in the middle of a hurricane, man. I get it. Does anyone, this is a question by Kim T. Does anyone know what is happening in Myrtle Beach? Kim, there's no power in Myrtle Beach. They experienced the right-hand eye wall of the storm, so they probably got the strongest part of the winds of the storm right in here. Here's the eye wall, the center of rotation. The heaviest rain is on this side over here on the left. Myrtle Beach took on, you know, probably the strongest part of the winds of Hurricane Ian. And Murrells Inlet right now is dealing with some very heavy rain. See it right there? Morell's Inlet, yeah, Garden City Beach, Myrtle Beach. There's power outage underway right now. Widespread power outages across eastern South Carolina. It's going to be like that for a while, because can you imagine trying to drive a linesman truck with a boom on the back of it going, 25 feet in the air in 50-mile-an-hour winds? It's not possible. So they have to wait until the storm clears out. The water retreats to a certain degree. They can go in a little bit of water, but not much for safety reasons. Boy, this area has a wide spread. These are all warnings here. All these green boxes you see here, these are all various types of, and they're pretty much the same. This is a new one here. I want to click on this one and see. They're flash flood warnings, and this one expires in 1 hour and 27 minutes. And that includes Ravenel and Seabrook Island, Folly Beach, and anywhere in between. And you can see all those little rivers and canals through there. They're all taking on water. Charleston, same way, flash flood warning. Ladson, I'm not sure what that name is right there. What is that? I can't read it. We can click on that though. Heavy rain reported. And it sure looks like it. Numerous roads in Dorchester County closed due to flooding. Myrtle Beach, pretty much all of the area here where the storm made landfall, most of, and you can see it's occupying pretty much all of eastern South Carolina, with the exception of Beaufort and Paris Island. And I don't know if those are in South Carolina. Yeah, they are. Just barely missing those. They're right on the southern edge. Without power. Let's look at the power and see if the power outages have gone up any over here at poweroutage.us. I'm going to refresh right now. We're at 53 and 14 in North and South Carolina. Did go up some. South Carolina especially, looking at 63,000, just north of 63.8 in South Carolina. North Carolina looking at 14,632. And those are primarily along the east coast of South Carolina and, the eastern half of South Carolina, I'm sorry, and the east coast of North Carolina experiencing the bulk of the power outages right now. But, of course, that's going to change as the storm moves farther and farther inland. And the good news is it's going to gain forward momentum and it's going to weaken. So that will lessen the effects of this historic storm. Made 4 landfalls, guys. I remember about 5 days ago, I was looking at a computer model, and the computer model was suggesting a triple landfall. I'm like, oh wow, I don't think I've ever seen that. But it was a 5-day forecast, and 5-day forecasts always change. This one didn't. This one did not change. It kept that triple landfall the whole way. It changed its forecast, but the screen grab I took, that was actually, where are we at? We're on the 30th. Okay, I took that screen grab on the 24th, and it showed a triple landfall, West Cuba, Southwest Florida, and actually right here. Exactly right in here. Between Charleston and Myrtle Beach. It was right on the money. But it changed the forecast back and forth. But its original forecast, I'll tell you where it was at. It was at Ventisky. Showed a triple landfall. They got it right. I have the screen grab to prove it. I took that screen grab on the 24th. But technically it's a 4 landfall, counting the barrier island. Guys, I want to look at the North Carolina situation. We're going to kind of mix it up just a little bit here. Go up to North Carolina because we have friends up here that are really dealing with it. Look at that. Wow. Woo! That is a lot of rain. Look at that. Get this right here. It covers 105 miles. And that's just the outer band. If we go down here to where the storm's making landfall, look at that. Range stretches 256 miles out from the center of the storm. Center of the storm's right, actually here. Goes all the way up into here and farther. I'm just going up to where the radar goes. The radar can't even get the entire storm in it. It's that big. Unbelievable. Got all kinds of warnings over here along the coast of North Carolina. Okay, the big blue feature you see on here, it's not a square, it's not a rectangle, it's a mesoscale discussion. And that expires in 52 minutes. And what that means is this area that you see in blue, the conditions are getting favorable for the formation of mesocyclones, aka tornadoes. So if you're along the East Coast of North Carolina, just be cognizant of that. You could see tornadoes a lot of times. Like I mentioned yesterday, the tornadoes that spawn in large tropical storms are detected usually by radar. Sometimes, in rare cases, like yesterday, a tornado did touch down in Florida near Kissimmee, actually over by St. Cloud, Florida. But a lot of the times they stay up in the clouds, but not always. That is definitely not always the case. So a lot of possibilities for tornadoes here. Here we go. Here's another report of storm surge. National Park Service reported overwash along Highway 12 along Ocracoke Island. And that would be North Carolina. And the orange square you see here, not a square, it's just a rectangle, whatever. That should be a small craft special marine warning. And basically what they did is they warn against small craft advisories being out here because the rough seas, the high winds are generating, large waves, and which stands to reason. It's a big storm. Look how far this thing goes. The eye wall's down here near the Charleston, South Carolina area. And this storm still has an unbelievable satellite presentation. It's just absolutely huge. It's not done yet. It's going to rain all day somewhere out east, whether it be Virginia, whether it be New Jersey, whether it be West Virginia, whether it be southeastern Ohio, whether it be southern Pennsylvania. That's just today. It's going to continue to move north. And it's going to continue to have outer bands. And if you're in those outer bands, you could real quick see an inch or two of rain. We were in an outer band out here in Arizona just a few days ago from Hurricane K. I confirmed it on radar. I took a screen grab of it. It was a legitimate outer band of a hurricane that was in the eastern Pacific Ocean that was impacting central Arizona. I could not believe it, but it's true. I actually had to go out and touch it just to say that I touched a tropical storm / hurricane in the middle of the desert. And it was a legitimate, just like you see right here. See these outer bands? It was much thinner, and we just happened to be right in the middle of it. It was an outer band just like this right here. But it trained right over our location, and we got an inch of rain like that in the desert. So yes, the climate is definitely changing. There's no doubt about it. Look how big these storms have been lately. Every year, it seems like we're seeing just really, really big record-setting storms. A lot of energy, a lot of energy in our environment, in the atmosphere. Okay, this one looks like it may have stalled. This is Burkale Road. Let's go somewhere else. If we can go back to the intercoastal. I kind of like that one. Does it work? It works. Yay. US 501 North, intracoastal. This is along the coast of South Carolina. And you can see the visibility is starting to decrease. I'm not surprised. This is right where the landfall is at. Looks like to me Well, I don't know. It's hard to say. Obviously, it's daytime, so there's not going to be a whole lot of lights on, but it's dark out, kind of, so you'd think folks would have their lights on. I just don't know if maybe there's no houses or businesses over there. It looks like there are because I see power poles. But anyway, it looks dark. It looks like the power may be off there. But somehow the camera's still working. So, we'll check the power outages here in just a minute. But folks in Myrtle Beach, you know, this isn't a Category 4. Just know this is not a major hurricane. You know, it's going to be one of those types of storms that, you know, it's I don't know. It's going to be like a big inconvenience storm. You know, it's already weakening. It's made landfall. It was strong enough to take out the power, strong enough to cause flash flooding. But you know, you just got to be safe and be wise. You know, stay out of its way. Let it pass. Let it do its thing, and then things will get back to normal. It'll be okay. Inches per hour helps for areas, even though we know they are not reporting right. I'll give my estimate. Well, I'll give my estimate. This is Eye of State. I'll give you my estimate if you really want it. Okay. Huh. You're kidding me. 10 inches along the east coast of North Carolina, easy. In places, double digits. I would be surprised if it weren't. Long the Charleston, South Carolina area. I'm gonna go back down to this area. I don't like that radar. I like this one better. Actually, this thing is so big, it's hard to get the entire storm. I can't get it all on one radar. It's nuts. There we go. We'll go with this one. Okay. Wow, and this is real time. So we still have part of the storm offshore, part of it onshore, counterclockwise rotation. The direction it's moving to the north. These areas over here are going to be in the storm for quite some time, and they've already received a considerable amount of rain, and they're going to get even more. So double digits. Nothing like 20 inches, but 10 inches of rain, I'd say pretty easy over here as well. Maybe more, a little close to the core here, like Moncks Corner, Ladson, Folly Beach, Seabrook Island, even Charleston. You know, you guys are right now. Florence is in the thick of things. I'd say 10 inches would be really, really conservative in some areas. I'm not saying it's going to be much over that, but I'd say 10 inches would be pretty easy over here on the left-hand side of the storm, and then swinging back around up here to North Carolina, the east coast of North Carolina. I'm telling you, you guys are really dealing with some heavy rain right now, and have been for quite some time. Look at that. Here's another radar. This is showing the eye wall making landfall. That's a pretty good view, but we're only getting like half the storm. I mean, this thing's so big, it's taken multiple radars to even get it all visible. Unbelievable, man. Yeah, a lot of power outages here, guys. So if you're trying to get a hold of your friends and family in this area, I don't know anything about the cellular service, but and I'm sure it's going to be okay. This is the type of storm that's going to be blowing over cellular towers. It's probably not going to do that. I would say not. But power outages, of course. Tree branches are everywhere. You know, they're going to fall into power lines. That's going to happen. You know, even during thunderstorms, that can happen, especially during a big old tropical storm. Absolutely. But this isn't a Category 4. They're not going to have these very destructive high winds and just massive storm surge. But I will say, North Carolina, you guys are, and let's go up here to Virginia. Are you serious? No, look at that. Going into Virginia too. I mean, this is dealing with 3 states. Look at Virginia. Wow, you guys are getting some really big time rain here. Newport News, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach. This is some sort of a I don't know what this is, non-wind damage. I've never seen a report like this. This is new to me. What does this mean? Report from 1-inch tree limb broken, shingles blown. And that's in Chesapeake near Virginia Beach, Virginia. And that's that mesoscale discussion. That's the blue shape you see there along the coast of North Carolina and parts of Virginia. But Virginia, especially southeast Virginia, getting a mother load of rain right now. The eastern North Carolina, mother load. Again, I would say more than likely double digits would be a pretty safe bet. Not everywhere, but some locations, sure. This is a big tropical storm, and it left its mark and it tore a path through Florida that they'll be talking about for decades. That is heavy, heavy rain. And this thing had a chance to recharge out over the ocean. And like I said, this you can thank this dry air right here that got pulled into the storm. And you can see right there, see how fast it got pulled in? Look at that. Look at those channels. That's dry air infiltrating the eye wall. There's the eye of the storm. That right there, my friends, is what can weaken a storm. This is what you look for when you're tracking hurricanes. You look for things like this. If this dry air isn't there, then the environment's good for hurricanes, and the hurricane can strengthen and get stronger. If you see that dry air in the vicinity of the eye wall, you know it's going to get weaker. You just got to know what to look for, and then you kind of know what to expect. But this here, it's totally obvious. You've all seen radar. That is massive rainfall rates falling, accumulation. Elizabeth City, Roper, Pinetown, River Road, Swan Quarter, really getting heavy rain, and have been now for a couple hours, and there's more to come. Definitely more to come. Let's go back and check the power outages. Looks like this camera stopped. We'll have to refresh it and see. Poweroutage.us right now, 63,000 and 14,000 respectively in South and North Carolina. Gonna refresh, and holy cow, definitely updated. South Carolina, 80,229 without electricity right now. That's customers. And in North Carolina, that went up as well, 18,800 in North Carolina. So both of those states dealing with widespread major power outage situations, and look for that to go up into Virginia here in the next, I don't know, couple hours. Probably not as many because they're not near the eye. You can clearly see that South Carolina is dealing with the eye wall of the storm. 80,000 customers without electricity and counting. So hang in there, guys. It's going to get better here. Let's see. I'm trying to find some cameras. George Bishop Parkway. We're losing our cameras because of so many power outages. Yeah, that's what's going on. I'll find another one, though. There's plenty of other ones. Some of these have gone offline. Understandably so. Trying to deal with a tropical storm hurricane, man. Stayed online a lot longer than I thought it would. Let's go somewhere else. This would be the south. Well, here, let's go to Myrtle Beach. Here you go. There's two cameras here. Yeah, you see the situation here, guys. I'm at this camera is at Myrtle Beach, and it is no juice. Let's check this one here. No juice. Power outages. Power outages. This is near Myrtle Beach. That's the one I was just on, the Intercoastal Waterway. Okay, so let's go. Let's see. I don't know where to go. Maybe go up here by this location. Oh, there we go. All right. I don't know how long this is going to last, but this is just to the north, or Myrtle Beach. Look at the lights here blowing in the wind. See them being lifted up into the air. See them? How the wind's affecting those? So you know that's a strong onshore push of the eye wall still making landfall. This is US 17 north at SC22. This would be north of Myrtle Beach. So this is what it looks like near Myrtle Beach. So, you know, again, it's not anything catastrophic. It's probably now a tropical storm, to be honest. A strong tropical storm, but nevertheless, it creates, you know, infrastructure issues that we all depend on. And here's that dry air. See the dry air wrapping around right there. You can see it. That's what that is. That's not just blue. That's dry air. That's a component that's affecting the storm. But it's still strong enough to be a Category 1. That would have dismantled most storms. That type of dry air infusion, that would have totally dismantled a storm. It actually stayed a Category 1. And it was in wind shear. Believe it or not, this storm was in wind shear the entire time it was in the Gulf of Mexico. Didn't phase it. So yeah, that's what's happening here. This is north of Myrtle Beach, guys. North of Myrtle Beach. So you can see they're getting some steady winds. You can see it's affecting the street lights. And I can't tell if they're on or off. I know there's a widespread power outage situation right now in that area. Looks like to me, though, look, is this a light? No. Yes, it is. That's a sign. That sign has power. See it? So that tells me that this area has power. That's why this camera is on. The camera closest to Myrtle Beach was off because there's no power closer to Myrtle Beach. So this area here apparently still has electricity, which is good. Good deal. I don't know how often these river gauges update. I know they update daily, but I don't think they're in real time. I was going to check the river gauges here in the Myrtle Beach and South Carolina area in general. Let me see if... Nah, I know they're not real time. But you know what? I'm going to check. Why not? Let's do it. We're here at the... This thing is very, very sensitive. That's why I don't use it a lot. I will in extraordinary situations like what we're dealing with here. With see, I just barely touched it, and now it went into infinity. I got to refresh the whole page. All right, there we go. So I want to go to South Carolina, but I don't think these are real time. All the purple and red ones are rivers that are having issues in Florida. Understandably so. Okay, we're getting, this is a report here near Myrtle Beach, it looks like, yeah. Atlantic coast at Myrtle Beach. Oh, wow. That's up into moderate stage. See the graph over there on the right? So that's today at 12 noon. Moderate is 8.5. It's over 8.5. It's not into major. Doesn't appear to be anticipated to be major, but that's at Myrtle Beach. But that particular waterway went up significantly. That's Spring Made Pier. If you guys are familiar with that. That right now seems to be the only one that's having any type of issues, but that's subject to change because we got an ongoing situation here that the rain is still coming down. It's far from over. Still at 80,000 customers without electricity. Yeah, it's just really getting started good. But the good news is it's going to gain forward momentum. But that rain up there in the Carolinas is incredibly heavy. Not surprised. Not surprised. This storm had unbelievable DNA, and it's still showing it. Still showing it. But you can thank the dry air for keeping this thing in check. That right there, that saved the day, I'm telling you. It could have been a Category 2. I don't think it would have had time to become a Category 3, but I saw that eye wall off the coast of Jacksonville, Florida, and then I saw that quick intrusion of that dry air, Otherwise, it probably would have been a stronger storm. Still strong enough, bringing a lot of wind, creating a lot of power outages, and that's what's going on in the Myrtle Beach area. It's not anything catastrophic or anything like that. This is a Category 1, low-end hurricane that's bringing minimal winds and moderate rains. We're not going to see 3-foot rain totals, probably a large area of 10 inches, absolutely. There'll be 10 inches scattered up and down the Carolinas into Virginia. Probably, I wouldn't be surprised if some areas haven't already seen upwards of 8 inches of rain, and more to come. So there it is, the fourth official landfall happening right now as we do this video. And it's not anything like what happened down in Southwest Florida, thank goodness. We don't want that to ever happen. But yeah, that Ian was a storm that'll go down in history as one of the strongest to ever make landfall in the United States. And these little barrier islands down here will never be the same. They won't. I know some people didn't evacuate down in through here, and it was hard to watch when I saw that thing making landfall. I was really pulling for these people. I really was. That's why I kept mentioning the cooler, because I knew they were dealing with water. I knew they were. That's why I kept mentioning the cooler. Wrap a cooler with duct tape and hang on. Coolers have handles, and if it's just you by yourself, you can drape your body over the cooler and just hang on. You're going to float around, protect your head and your eyes, but it will save you. It's worked. I've seen it. I saw it during Katrina. So I was really pulling for you guys in here because I knew you were up against one of the strongest storms to ever make contact with the state of Florida. So hopefully everybody's okay there, but that was a big strong storm that did make 4 landfalls. Western Cuba, barrier islands down here in southwestern Florida. I think it was officially this place right here that touched the eye wall first. Cayo Costa. And then the right-hand side of the storm, which was huge. This whole area was impacted by the storm for hours and hours. And it went up, and now it's making landfall right here. Historic storm that, like I said, will go down in history as one of the strongest to interact with land in the southeastern United States. Still at 80,000 customers in South Carolina without electricity. In Florida, it went up a little bit. It went up by 2,000 here in the last 10 minutes. Where are we at, guys? We'll go back to the radar, take another peek down here in South Carolina. We'll see what the eye wall looks like now. Probably about the same. This thing is so big you can't get it in one radar sweep. It's incredible. But there we have it. This is why there's no power in these areas. But you know what? Here's another thing that we can assume just through common logic. Since this isn't a catastrophic storm, it's a low-end hurricane, and that's good. It comes from a very high-end DNA, but it's a low-end storm at this point. The repairs with the power grid should go quickly because the damage should not be, super destructive. Yeah, there's going to be damage from trees falling into power lines and quite possibly taking a pole out here or there. But the main thing is going to be line disconnections from transformers on poles, like I saw with Charlie in 04. All over Orlando. I remember because that made a nighttime landfall. The blue flashes in the sky, bluish green. And the lines were disconnecting from the poles, from the trees falling into the power line. So that's what's going to happen here. So the repairs may be slow. They won't happen fast enough, but they shouldn't go on for weeks. But you got to keep in mind, there's 42,000 linemen right now down in Florida trying to get power back on to the citizens of Florida that were impacted by Hurricane Ian as well. Now there's going to be a need for thousands of people up here to get the power restored to the citizens of North and South Carolina and quite possibly parts of Virginia. That remains to be seen. So this is a huge, huge undertaking, you know. It's going to require an army of people. But the nice thing about it here is this is not a high-end hurricane. So going to be flooding? Yes. Power outages? Yes. A little bit of damage here and there? Yes. There's going to be flooding. Absolutely. I can tell by this side of the storm here, it has been training very, very heavy rain in the Charleston area. Hanahan, what's this, Folly Beach? Yes, Folly Beach. You guys might have some heavy flood issues here in this area. Already probably over 10 inches. I would say that's a pretty safe bet based off of what we're seeing here on the radar presentation. I cannot confirm that, and don't take my that's just my theory. And then they're showing here heavy rain, and this is a local report from somebody there. Inches unknown. Numerous roads in Dorchester County reported unable to use because of flooding, and I totally believe that. And this was put up a while ago, and it's been doing this. That's as heavy as it gets, guys. That's probably right there, the orange you see, especially the red and the dark orange. That's 3 inches per hour rates. That's high-end tropical storm rainfall rates. Doesn't necessarily mean there's high-end winds, but it's raining about as hard as it can rain right there. It just simply can't rain much harder. So there's going to be flooding in these areas, you bet. Things still making a landfall. But here soon, I don't know exactly how soon, but here soon it's going to take off a little quicker. And it's that big old wind shear here from the high pressure system that infiltrated the storm. That's going to grab a hold of the steering mechanism, this big outflow channel here. It's going to grab a hold of it and pull it north quicker. So the forward momentum is going to increase exponentially. It's going to go from 9 to like 17 miles per hour, which will cause it to move out of the area much quicker. So it'll be out of the area by this evening. Yeah. But between now and this evening, I know it's 1 o'clock along the East Coast. This is going to be around for a few more hours. So you're going to see a few more inches of rain. Easy. It won't be out until probably after dark. And I don't know that the linemen will be able to do too many repairs after dark. You know, they'll be trying to repair in the dark, completely in the dark. So I don't know that'll be the safest course of action, but I don't know. I'm not a lineman, and I don't know how they manage these types of situations. I do know they'll have trucks at the ready. They know there's going to be power outages, and they're going to get in as soon as they can. But I don't know if they can go in at night, especially in a flooded area. We'll have to wait and see. But this area here, this bright orange you see on here, wow, that is a lot of rain. In fact, there's a lot of rain going on up here by Columbia, Dentsville, Red Bank, Eastover. You're seeing a lot of orange. In fact, let's back it out. I think it's moving up into eastern Virginia right now as well. Let's go look. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big deal. That's big old heavy rain. Now you don't have the winds up here too much. Just a big old super soaker that's got that orange in there. See that orange? That's heavy rain. Doesn't really rain much harder than that. And that's moving slow. So big time rain there. Let's go to eastern North Carolina. Big time rains there as well. And again, the orange you see on there, it just simply can't rain much harder than that. So you're going to see multiple inches of rain in these areas. Don't see any new tornado warnings, which is always good. We don't want to see those. Situations already difficult enough. Don't need to see tornadoes. I will say there's a tornado icon here. We're going to click on it. This was posted a little while ago. This is the first time I've seen it, though. I think this is fairly new. Feature type, TVS. That's a tornadic vortex. And it shows the TVS is a tornadic vortex signature. Low level delta velocity of 76 knots, maximum of 76 knots. So, it could have been a little land spout or a water spout there, or maybe it was something that was detected, via radar. But that's the first one I've seen, and it's inside that area that they were talking about. See this blue area? They were right. These guys know what they're talking about. And voila, there it is. It was right in the area they said it would be. And it could be for an extended period of time. Again, another 22 minutes. And then more than likely, this big blue corral here you see will move. It'll go to a different location. It will follow certain parts of the storm that are conducive for the formation of TVSs, tornado vortex signatures. But hopefully there won't be any. But look for the power to be out probably all day, guys. So you had plenty of time to prepare. If you were in these areas, you should have had plenty of water, non-perishable foods, just enough to last for a day or two. Shouldn't be no multi-day, multi-week type of the situation here, because the damage, there's going to be damage here from flooding, especially water weight. That's what happened down here along the coast of Florida. The water weight from the storm surge. Like I said, one house I saw down here at Fort Myers Beach, right in this area here, the house, it was a 2-story home, still had the roof on it. So the winds in this particular area where this home was at, and I think the home was right over here, because this pier now is gone. It's no longer there. Water weight, the waves just took it apart. There's a house down here, big house, I think it might be right in here, took it off the foundation. Maybe it's this one here. The roof was still on, but it took the house off the foundation from the waves coming in, the water weight. Water is very heavy. When water gets out of control, how do you control it? You can't. What do you do? Just go grab it? You can't grab water. When it's out of control and it's very heavy, and it has the weight of the Gulf of Mexico behind it, all of this water weight pushing in, there's not too many things that can match that. So that is an incredible amount of power. That's why we build dams. That's why we have the Hoover Dam. That's why we have the dam at Lake Powell, because of the water weight. The water weight generates enough energy to supply the power needs of millions of people. Yeah, water is very powerful. So when it moves in uncontrolled like that into a community, then the power behind the water is going to win against a house, against a tree. It's a barrier island such as these right here. They're just no match for a Category 4 storm. And some of these barrier islands, from what I understand, and I don't know all the details, I'm like you guys, this is going to be a ongoing event, trying to understand the full scope and magnitude of what has occurred down here. We know that it's not good. There was a big storm that made landfall here, one of the biggest ever, and understanding completely what's going on down here is going to take days and weeks to figure out. I saw a photo out of Plant City, Florida, that literally looked like it wasn't, so don't take what I'm saying out of context, it just looked like an earthquake had occurred along a roadside in Plant City, Florida. In fact, I want to take you there. Where's Plant City? I can't seem to find it. I know where it's at. I've been through there. I haven't been in Plant City to stay for any length of time. I drove through there one time. It's been a long time ago. Okay, there it is right there. So there's Plant City. Okay, this community here, I don't know where, but it was along a road that hadn't been destroyed. Somebody was driving along a road, and they saw something along the side of the road. It was big concrete, maybe an overpass or an embankment. I don't know what it was, but it was shocking to see how it had been relocated, and the trees in the area were all discombobulated, and that was in Plant City, and that's well inland and well north of the official landfall. Something happened there. Maybe you guys know what happened. I don't. All I saw was a picture. Actually, it was a small video of something that happened here. Again, that's 100 miles away from the landfall. So you can only imagine the things that are unfolding down here. There's probably people, sadly enough, that are still needing to be rescued, and it's difficult for the rescuers to get to the people because of the floodwaters and the storm surge. It's going to take a while for that to drain, you know. It's just a really big deal. This here is just a low end part of Hurricane Ian, not the high end. This is low end, you know, mild hurricane. But still, you see the power poles here, these power lines. These above ground power lines are very susceptible to hurricane storm damage. You don't see any trees tall enough to take these power lines down, so they'll probably do good, you know, they'll be okay. But these smaller ones, if there were trees near them, the branches fall into the power lines, and then, you know, the power goes off. So looks pretty mild compared to what we saw yesterday. So look for the power outages to increase. I'm going to check them one more time here. We're looking at 1.89 in Florida, 241,000 in Puerto Rico, 80,000 in South Carolina, 18,800 in North Carolina. I'm going to refresh the page. Here we go. Wow, significant change. Look, North Carolina turned red. Red is north of 100,000. That's what that means. Yellow is 10,000 plus. Orange is 50,000 plus. Red is 100,000 plus. South Carolina just went from 80,000 to 118,546 in South Carolina. North Carolina just eclipsed 20,000. So a lot of power outages in those areas, and look for more. The storm is just now making official landfall. Yeah, and there's still a lot to go. This is a very big storm. And again, North Carolina north of 100,000 now without power. And guys, since it's already, where we at, 115 in the eastern coast where this storm is at, you know, more than likely the power is going to be off all night. Look at that. See how the eastern part of South Carolina, you know, that's 30% of this county here, and that's Charleston County, is without power. This area here, 30% without power. That's the dark orange. 30% here in Georgetown County. But that's a widespread power outage situation. That's over 100,000 customers without electricity now in South Carolina. And that's a big deal. That is a big deal. Still have power here. This camera is north of Myrtle Beach. Let me see if I can go down a little closer to the eye wall. I don't think I can, just simply because there's no power, but we'll try. Let's check it out. Probably not gonna let me. Let's see if I can refresh the page. Yeah, it's not gonna let me. The site won't even work now. Just trying to find a different camera. Holy cow, look at all those cameras. I don't think... Oh, there we go. Man, that looks like pretty much smooth sailing there. Guy's doing 60 miles an hour. How about that? A little different story here. Looks very windy. A guy's going much slower. Really can't see that far. This is I-95 at exit 102. And it's around 1:15 p.m. Eastern time. So very wet, very windy. This is in the eastern... Where am I at here? Yeah, this would be over by Florence. That camera here is right in this area. That's why we're seeing the heavy, what look like whiteout conditions almost. Let's go. I can't even get all this storm in the... Wow, this is a big, big storm. Okay, this is where we're at with regard to the camera that we're on right now. That's why the conditions look the way they do, because we're right here. We're in the middle of a pretty heavy rain band, and it's going to continue like that for a while. Here's where we are right here. See the wind kind of bouncing around a little bit? That's still probably Category 1 strength, or a strong tropical storm. This storm overall has been an absolute super soaker. Look at the hillside here. It looks like fog. It looks like fog off in the distance. That's heavy rain. Boy, there's going to be epic rainfall totals over here as well. Just epic. Thank you, Junebug. Do I have... I'm sorry, Junebug, I just saw your question. Do I... My devices, I wonder, there we go. Do you also have donation live streams? You know, that's a good question. I don't necessarily ask. I mean, I think there's a donation thing on there, but you don't have to. I appreciate you hanging around with me. I really do. You don't have to do that. That's very kind, though, and very thoughtful of you, but not required. Just stick around, you know? But I'm gonna have to cut this short here soon anyway. I have a obligation this morning, but I wanted to follow Ian. Been following Ian since the South Caribbean Sea. Now we're up in the Atlantic Ocean. Went through the Gulf of Mexico. Now we're in the Atlantic. And it's not done yet, guys. This storm's going to make a big impact on the eastern United States. You can see the rain bands. They're far from over, and they're getting stronger as this thing is coming ashore. They're very strong. And the orange that you see right here that just went through Myrtle Beach, they just got another very significant downpour. And each click is like, I don't know, 15 minutes. So it rained very hard there once again in Myrtle, North Myrtle. For an hour, rained very, very hard. The rain's going to continue for the next several hours. Again, you know, when I go to the different radars that I can choose from here, you can see there's some in South Carolina, South Carolina, North South Carolina, and then Eastern North Carolina, and the storm doesn't fit in one radar sweep. And you know, that in itself is pretty wild. I'm just being honest. You don't see this very often. You really don't. You're looking at a historic hurricane, and you guys that are in it, you are actually part of a historic hurricane that made landfall and 4 times. That made 4 landfalls. You guys are part of history. I don't see any other tornado signatures, TVSs. I think that's the same one that we saw earlier. Yes, that's the same one. So good. Don't see any new tornadoes. And usually there's not a lot. I mean, I remember years ago with one of the hurricanes I was in, there was a lot of tornado TVSs, but none of them touched the ground. They were all radar spotted, you know, by radar in the air that never touched ground. But that doesn't mean that they can't. They sure can. Here's one right here that looks like it may have touched down. Okay. Near Holden Beach. That's a tornado. This was a little while ago, I think. Skywarn spotter reported tornado in Holden Beach with lofted debris. No damage reported at this time. So see, this one here was confirmed by a human on the ground. They saw it. So, you know, that's pretty rare. It's not uncommon. But it's not real common to see those on the ground like that. But it does happen. That's why I say take it seriously. These guys know what they're talking about. This area here can, and you can see has. It's produced 2 now. Tornado signatures. And that one there touched ground and was pulling up debris. And that would be north of Myrtle Beach, south of Southport, right in that area there. North of Myrtle Beach, south of Southport. There was a tornado on the ground that was pulling debris up into the sky. And there you go, classic example. Remember, tornadoes pull, hurricanes, tropical cyclones, typhoons, push. And man, they can push some water. Remember when Irma pushed water away from the Bahamas and people were walking out into the Caribbean? Remember that? And then it made landfall in Florida, and the offshore flow pushed the wind out of Tampa, and people were walking out in Tampa, just like 2 days ago. David Mackey, tornado in Virginia. Thank you, David. Let me look and see what I can find on here. It may not have made it to this yet. And sometimes, guys, tornadoes happen, you know, like Richard was just saying. They may happen in a rural area, and they may go unofficially reported. Let's look and see, though. I want to go up to Virginia. We'll click on this radar. See, it's not showing anything. Let's go up here. See how the storm's moving to the north, slightly northwest. It hasn't made it to northern Virginia yet. Let's look over here. Yeah, it's not showing that tornado, but I totally believe you. I'm not surprised at all. This storm has the capability of doing that and doing it many times over. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that report. Let's go back down to South Carolina, where the storm is making landfall. I don't know which radar to click on. I guess we'll use this one here, right? I mean, this thing is just incredibly large. Yeah, Charleston's been in a very heavy rain band now for quite some time, so I would assume, and maybe you guys can confirm, I know power's down, communications might be, you know, at best intermittent right now, since the winds and heavy rain, but I would say if you know anybody in Charleston or in Charleston, I would say the flooding there is pretty significant right now. They've been in this outer band of dark orange for quite some time, and that color represents very, very heavy rain. It just can't rain any harder than that, other than being bright red, and you can see red infiltrated in the orange. See it? See the little sprinkles of red in there? That's as hard as it can rain on this radar. That's as hard as it can detect. So it's going to continue for a while. Once again, South Carolina is now north of 100,000 customers without electricity, and it is 1:30 in the afternoon, so the storm's going to be a while. Still moving kind of slow, but it is due at some point to increase forward speed to about 17 miles per hour, and then this storm will move out, you know, much quicker than it's obviously moving now. But that may be for not yet another hour or two. I'm just checking some other radars here. Look at that. Wow. Are you serious? Look at that. This is a different radar that we couldn't even see this part of the storm because the storm is so big. Look at that. Unbelievable. The outer bands, these are the western outer bands of this storm over in Columbia. Again, the orange is about as heavy as it can rain. Boy, this storm has been one for the record books. No kidding. Covered multiple states, 4 landfalls. Again, the full magnitude of this storm is, at this point, unknown. There's no way to know. Haven't been able to cover all the area that it's impacted and then assess the areas properly, you know? Just incredible. So guys, be you're in it if you're out here. You know the drill. You've probably been through storms before. You live along the coast. You've had to have had experience with tropical storms and hurricanes. Just respect it. Let it get out of your way, and then assess the situation. Be patient. Power is going to be out for a while. There's no way men and women can get out and work in these type of conditions, and you know, I know you wouldn't expect them to. So they'll have to wait until it's safe for them to get out and do what they do. And they'll do it. These guys are good. They're really good at getting the power back on quick. Now keep in mind, there's 118,000 customers without electricity right now. That number is going to climb. It almost looks like this eyewall's is getting stronger. That is just unbelievable. Wow. Okay, we've got that area still in the mesocyclone discussion. Is what they call that when you see that big blue swath on there. They're discussing, and watching that area particularly close for the formation of vortexes, tornado vortexes. Still there, probably be there for another few minutes, but wow, what an incredibly large storm. Let's see if the camera's, looks like it may have hopped offline. I'm not surprised. Let's go to the one next door. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's on a bridge, huh? Must be an intercoastal bridge. Okay, this is, maybe you guys are familiar with this location, I-95, mile marker, 99.5. I wouldn't feel comfortable driving a big rig across an open bridge like this, especially with those winds. Even though they're not, high-end winds, it's still very windy. And that truck can catch a lot of wind. Looks like this one stopped as well. This is a rest area. Doesn't look like it's working. There's a car pulled over to the side of the road. Camera kind of bouncing around. Boy, that's reminiscent a little bit of Florida, how the camera is bouncing, but let's go show you the winds are strong. Tropical storm force. This isn't category 4 energy. Which is good. This is I-95 south at mile marker 77.2. It's in South Carolina. That's where we're at here. And this area is right over here. Right in this area here. Right in here. So it's experiencing heavy rain. It's near Lake City, west of Myrtle Beach. Morels, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. Morels Inlet. Experiencing very heavy rain right now. Flooding in that area. Storm surge at 9:19. I think I've read this one, but we'll double check. Midway Fire performing rescue from a house on 300 block of Myrtle Avenue in Pawleys Island. Water is in the first floor of, and that's as far as it goes. So water apparently entering the first floor of a home or residence in Midway, Pawleys Island. Yeah, Pawleys Island, South Carolina. So that would be near Myrtle's Inlet and just south of Myrtle Beach. So that pretty much tells you there's probably water in Myrtle's Inlet. There's probably water in Myrtle Beach. Very similar. I mean, they are right on the right-hand side of the eye wall of the storm. And the storm is out here as well. It's just the radar is not picking it up. There's action out here too. But then there's action over here also. But the radar, it doesn't extend that far. It's just so big. Just incredible. There's the eye wall. Again, Charleston is just, it seems like it's been in a perpetual loop of very intense rainfall. Charleston has to be experiencing a very heavy flooding. We've read this one earlier, tree blocking the roadway at Queen Street, and that's in Charleston. And there's probably several trees because you're getting some pretty strong winds there in Charleston because it's right near the eye wall. So gusts of 80, 85 are going to be pretty common in that area. And with the ground super saturated from the very intense rain, relentless rain, been doing this here for quite some time. That's going to loosen up the roots of trees, and then it's going to make them susceptible to falling over, or even without wind. The ground gets so saturated that the trees become saturated as well. They become top heavy, and they'll just simply fall over. I've seen it. They fall into power lines sometimes without a whole lot of wind. So I'm sure Charleston, they have really been getting a lot of rain there. It's super soaker, just soaking type of rain. Wow. Anybody know anybody in the Charleston area? I know there weren't any mandatory evacuations because this was not a high-end, Category 4 or 3 major storm, but still, this here is this is significant rainfall. That is very significant rainfall in the Charleston area. Ladson also experiencing the same type of rain. This area here, hurricane, they posted a report. This would be Dorchester, South Carolina. Several trees reported down in Dorchester County. Power line blocking the roadway at Zion Road. That's in Dorchester, and several trees. That's probably because the ground is so saturated that the root systems lose their footing, and if it's a bigger tree, it can become top heavy, and a little bit of wind, especially if it's saturated, can fall over, and like we just saw a report there's several that are blocking the roads. So it's going to be difficult for linemen to get down that road to repair the damaged power line. That's a classic example right there. They can't get the truck down the road until the tree is removed. Or trees. It sounds like there's several trees. So this is a big deal. It's a big storm, historic storm, making its fourth landfall, which is historic. So you guys in this area, you are part of history. You can say you were in Hurricane Ian as it made its fourth landfall along the east coast of the United States. We're going to take another quick look at the North Carolina situation, and you can see the big counterclockwise rotation as that eye wall is it's still making landfall. It's just so incredibly big. All of that counterclockwise rotation is just loaded with super soaking rains. So expect rains in various locations. It depends on what part of the outer bands you're in. If you're in the direct line of an outer band for an extended period of time, like Charleston, you're going to have extensive rainfall. Eastern North Carolina been getting very heavy rain the entire time I've been doing this, and prior to me doing this live stream. So it's going to continue. It's going to move north, slightly northwest, and then take on a more northerly component as it gets involved with the jet stream and the wind shear that's moving across the west to north corridor there through the United States. And you can already see the wind shear. The wind shear has been grabbing that outflow channel pretty much since it entered the Gulf of Mexico. It just didn't influence the storm that much. No, it was just a very unique situation. But anyway, rain will continue, guys, for the next several hours. We'll check the power outages one more time, and hope you guys stay safe. I know most of you stayed in that area because there was not evacuation notices, because it was a Category 1. But let's check the power outages. Again, still red in South Carolina, obviously will be for the rest of the day, I'm sure. 126,000 customers now in South Carolina without electricity. We'll click on the state, and that is right where the storm is currently making landfall. There are tornadoes in this area, the possibility of tornadoes in this area. So, you want to be on the lookout for that. Heavy rains are just going to continue for quite some time. And again, the rainfall totals are going to vary. We're not going to know the true scope of all of this activity because it's covering such a wide area. Hurricane Charlie, you could actually see the path of that storm from a helicopter. You can see right where it went. It was like a large tornado. This thing here is in a whole nother league. It's going to be weeks trying to figure out exactly, what this storm, has done. But we do know it's made 4 landfalls, which is quite rare. Right now, it's responsible for over 2 million customers without electricity in multiple states. That would be Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, and look for Virginia to start taking on some power outages, as they're already starting to see power outages in eastern Virginia as the storm is getting closer and closer to Virginia. Right now, Virginia is looking at 7,730 customers without electricity, and look for that number to go up as we move forward in time. This camera here went offline like most of the cameras are currently doing, because the power outages are extending farther and farther as the storm moves in farther and farther. So making landfall right now in South Carolina, historic Hurricane Ian making its fourth landfall in about as many days, I think. It's made West Cuba on the 26th, Southwest Florida on the 28th, and now South Carolina on the 30th. So 4 landfalls in 4 days. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a day. Be safe out there if you're in this storm, and try to be patient. Just know that the linemen will get in there as soon as they can and get that power back on. But in the meantime, just stay safe and stay indoors. Thanks for watching. Have a super day, and be